Well, everyone, I guess it's finally time. We have done constant videos about its bosses. We have chatted about its best and worst levels. And we have even done 1 or 2 videos about its gameplay. But now it's time. Time for me to get off my keister and finally start fully reviewing the Kingdom Hearts series. And what a better way to start than by talking about the series' humble beginnings, Kingdom Hearts 1. And while I do want to give an emotional story about how I got into this game and why it means so much to me and how it helped me open my third eye and how it just blew my nutsack off and yada yada yada, blah blah blah. You all know this, you all know the story. You know I love this franchise. Let's get into it. I'm going to stop wasting your all's time. Let's talk about the pros of Kingdom Hearts 1. Gonna start off strong on this bad boy by talking about my single favorite aspect in this game, and that's gotta be the exploration. Yeah, something I don't ever really see people bring up a whole lot for Kingdom Hearts 1 is how it was a lot less linear than pretty much every Kingdom Hearts game in the series after it. Instead of insanely fast and flashy combat mixed with visually appealing but linear hallways, Kingdom Hearts 1 had slower combat but far more of a focus on exploration than other titles. You were doing a lot of things in it, like climbing, jumping from platform to platform. It had much more of a mix between action RPG gameplay and 3D platforming, and it works incredibly well. It was always a lot of fun to get those jump timings down right and be rewarded with a treasure chest for figuring out the pattern. Speaking of treasure chests, I really miss how Kingdom Hearts 1 had ways of finding them in comparison to the several other games afterwards. With 1's chests, they weren't just lying in plain sight most of the time. They were mostly unable to be opened unless you solved a puzzle or met some sort of requirements, or got some later ability. And while these puzzles weren't exactly the hardest thing in the world, it still brought a smile to your face because you got something cool out of figuring them out. I miss that kind of treasure hunting in Kingdom Hearts games nowadays. Thankfully, it seems that they may just be returning to it if Kingdom Hearts 3's way of handling things like the Mickey emblems, well, Lucky Emblems, but come on, we all call it the Mickey emblems, and getting certain items were anything to go by. Okay, enough about the exploration. Let's talk about the level design in 1. It's honestly really good. Not every level is a hit. They have some problems, but we will get to those bad boys later. For now, we praise. I love how each one genuinely feels like you're running through the movie it's based off of. You can tell a lot of time and heart went into making them. And speaking of heart, let's gush about the story, shall we? Nowadays, Kingdom Hearts is known for having a, let's just say unique storyline if we're being civil about it.
I still had no idea that I was talking to myself. He cast away his bodily form just to set me on the appointed path.
But back when the games first ever started, they were actually pretty straightforward. But they held incredible amounts of charm through that. Sora's world is destroyed by the darkness, and the monsters, known as the Heartless, he obtains the Keyblade during all of these shenanigans, and goes on a journey with Donald and Goofy to find his friends Riku and Kairi and hopefully stop the darkness, interacting with the various Disney worlds and its characters along the way. It sounds simple in concept, but its constant travel and events help our characters to grow in fantastic ways, with some genuinely beautiful writing and some very easy to love characters like our best boy himself, Sora. It's always been satisfying to revisit his journey and fight through his original adventure. Speaking of fighting, let's get into the combat, shall we? Now the combat, like the original game's level design, has massively changed from how it once began. Unlike later games in the franchise, which placed more of an emphasis on things like flashy strikes, super long combos, and an instant reaction time, Kingdom Hearts 1's combat is much slower and has more of a tactical feel to it. It's not about how fast or how long you can keep a combo going, but rather how you use your attacks and magic in tandem for full synergy to do as much damage as possible. The whole combat experience is enhanced by the Tech Point system, a special point implementation system where doing specific choices in battle grants you extra experience points. Examples are swinging an attack at the right opponent to knock them off balance and gain an extra couple dozen points, which can be a game changer in how much each fight respective EXP output is increased. Its timing is completely mastered. And this Tech Point system is more than just a simple parry. It can be done in a number of ways. Destroying parts of enemies' bodies, using the most effective magic, striking their weak points, and so on. It's a really unique system that, honestly, not even just Kingdom Hearts, I'm sad more games in general never really tried to utilize this in their action RPGs. Well, I do wish it was used in the later games. I doubt it could really fit in with how split-second certain fights required you to be in them, but it's still sad to see such a cool idea kind of just fade away into obscurity. Of course, tech points aren't the only cool aspect of Kingdom Hearts 1's combat. There's also the hidden tech this game has that you can find with some practice, like being able to stun lock flying enemies if you never finish an air combo, aerial combos being faster in regards to dealing damage, and even certain spells actively affecting how boss fights can play out, like being able to use Stop on Maleficent or setting Hook's ass on fire using the fire spell to the point where he runs around like a lunatic. It's actually really cool to put these into practice to see what happens on repeat playthroughs. And that's it for the praise. I'd like to say more, but I want to do my best to remain as spoiler-free as possible in regards to things like bosses or story. So without further ado, let's get into the flaws that Kingdom Hearts 1 presents itself with. No, I bring up these flaws out of love, Kingdom Hearts 1, not hate. Alright, we've dealt with pros, let's get into the faults of this game. Gonna raw dog it right here and now. First and foremost, let's talk about the camera, because whoo boy, it is absolute dog shit. The camera may be an even bigger obstacle than anything the Heartless can throw at you. They can try, they can summon whatever giant behemoth they want, but nothing will ever be as big of a menace to Sora as this goddamn camera. I can't tell you how many times this camera has gotten me fucked in the ass by enemies and bosses because it struggles to follow the enemies moving around the battlefield to the point where it just gets downright frustrating. It's at its absolute worst during a couple of the boss fights where you're forced to rely on the glide mechanic. Thank God those are few and far between, or else I would spend way more time than a normal person should bitching about this. Yes, it is that frustrating. Speaking of frustrating, let's get into level design. Now, for the most part, the levels themselves aren't horrible. They can actually be fun to traverse. But goddamn, some of these levels are just downright bad. Some examples are Wonderland being an incredibly confusing set of fetch quests, Lost Jungle and Monstro being just confusing as all fuck to move around in due to everything looking the same, Agrabah's dickish Cave of Wonders, the final world being pretty cut and paste in its second half, and Atlantica being absolute fucking garbage in every way possible. Like, you would have to pay me to find something good about Atlantica. They can have their fun elements, certainly, but they can also be just massive pains in the ass to get through. Even on repeat playthroughs, I can't help but still dislike them, especially Atlantica. These levels just weren't really very fun to explore. Did I mention about how much I hate Atlantica? Because I really fucking do. Okay, enough about that. Glad I got that out of my system. These levels are just not as well designed as I'd hoped. And it's their first game. I'll give them credit for that. I'll say, okay, that's fair, it was your first game. And they do improve upon these larger levels in Kingdom Hearts 3, so that is a fair thing to say. So it's not like they didn't improve, but in Kingdom Hearts 1, most of the levels aren't very fun to explore. Okay, so that takes care of levels. What's next? Oh yeah, the boss fights. Now, this one is kind of a nitpick, to be honest, as I like a lot of the bosses in Kingdom Hearts 1. They aren't all winners though, as some can be massive pains like Jafar, Ursula, and my mortal enemy, the Trickmaster. These bosses can kind of just boil down to tedious slogs that require more lane play than actual skill, which is something I kind of despise in games, to be honest. My buddy Inkerdoodle put it best. Boss fights should be more about testing your skills instead of testing your patience. Okay, now let's get to the last of it all, the graphics. Now, I don't put much stock into graphics in games since I'm more of a gameplay guy instead. I always make sure to talk about if the graphics are impressive or not, and honestly, the graphics for Kingdom Hearts 1 are pretty dated, to be honest. They aren't ugly by any means, but they haven't aged as well as 2 has. I recommend skipping over the original PS2 version and just play the all-in-one package on the PS4 or get it on PC instead, as models look far better in comparison. Well, folks, this is the end. We finally wrapped up the review of Kingdom Hearts 1. Is it still worth recommending to this day? Oh, most definitely. It's still a lot of fun to go through. But if you want to experience the best version of it, I would get the recent version of these games on PlayStation, Xbox, or PC. Completely avoid the Switch versions because they're garbage. Don't ever touch those. They're bad. They're really, really bad. All in all, go give Kingdom Hearts 1 a play if you can. And if you've already played it, go play it again. It's a fantastic start to a wonderful series that even to this day is my favorite series of all time and is what got me into loving JRPGs. My final rating for this game is a solid 8.5 out of 10. And that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and drop a like and a sub if you want for more RPG content. Also, for everyone who's played Kingdom Hearts 1 in recent time, what do you think of it? Do you love it? Do you not care for it anymore? Or do you just find it mediocre? Let me know in the comments below. I love talking with all of you and hearing your thoughts. That's all of it. Goodbye, folks. Have a lovely day.